Here we go. All right. It's going to be February 21st, 2026, 4:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be with Amanda Miller. This is a session following the one with Kingsman 2 nights ago. Amanda, let me first sort of start off by saying that I did spend a significant amount of time combing through old reports. And I did go through the entire recording session between yourself and Kingsman 2 nights ago. When, as I'm sure you learned very quickly, you were in protective custody, set by us, I want to say 4 months back. The reason being, you have to understand, this department has sort of went through a massive restructure 5 months ago. And a lot of the old files pertaining to the Faceless had to be recovered and digested, redigested, because most of the details just simply weren't there. And that's when we came across your name and your medical records, and we very quickly realized the danger that you were in. Now, I want to start by saying my condolences for what happened to your family.
Thank you.
I understand that there may be some negative feelings towards the marshals, law enforcement in general here in San Andreas, for failing you. And while I can't bring back your family, I'm hoping that at the very least, those of us in this department can try to do what we can to put a stop to all this. Not just for your sake, but the sake of others that may end up being put into your a very similar position.
Why did you say that there were leaks when I went down into the police department?
There is a lot of truth. Well, so have you been informed that you've been in ICU since April?
Yes.
And I imagine at this point you're aware it's been roughly 10 months.
You did just say the date, yes.
If you want me to go into further detail, feel free to ask me, but at a very surface level, the state marshals were restructured. I took this position because of leaks within the police department and the government. And upon taking the helm, very quickly learned that some of those leaks came from some of the old guard. This was in conjunction with a serious amount of negligence and the lack of care for those that we've been sworn to protect. And so, having seen you down in the cells at Mission Row PD, and with the just series of individuals that are walking through those hallways, law enforcement and otherwise, I did not want to risk your identity, and quite frankly, even visually, how you looked like, to be known to anybody. Sec ops are very important, especially when I too believe that your life is actively in danger. A loose end, as you called it.
You're right about that.
Um, there's quite a few things I've got in terms of questions. Kingsman did a very good job helping lay the foundation. I do have some further details. And I'm hoping with some of the questions that I ask, I can get a better understanding of what transpired and what I could possibly do to help remedy this immediate situation. But with your help, I'm hoping we can be that much closer to shutting them down. But let me start by asking you this. I would like to verify some facts.
Okay.
Your husband was a weapons engineer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was this for the U.S. government?
Yes.
Specifically the U.S. military?
Yes.
Your father, was he a agent in the FIB?
Yes.
Were you ever employed by either of those entities?
No.
Have you ever worked a job in government?
No.
What was your career?
I was a teacher.
So for sake of transparency, I did work for the Secret Service for a couple of years, under President Davis. I understand that sometimes there are matters that require some levels of clearances. I'm not going to, if it is the case, I'm not going to force you to or try to compel you to say more than you need to if this is that sort of circumstance. But if there are some clearances preventing you from saying some things, if there's any way we can get those clearances passed, it may be helpful.
There are no clearances. I am a normal civilian.
Mm. When did you first learn of the Faceless's interest in your husband?
When he was kidnapped.
And how many days afterwards did the rest of your family get taken alongside yourself?
2 months later.
Was he there that day next to you?
Yes.
How did they bring him to you?
They brought me to him.
For my own, I take it they had him and they kidnapped you and your family and then brought you together to one place.
Yes.
Was there any message that was delivered prior to their actions?
No. Nothing.
Did they give a reason as to why they wanted to bring you all together in one place?
No reason, but I assume it was to get rid of loose ends.
I understand. I'm going to. I hope you understand there are some things that I cannot share. Simply due to the nature of these things. However, for some matters, especially those from many months back, I will share them for the sake of perhaps inducing some answers that may help, ones that you may not realize to be helpful until I say it, until I give some background context. But
Understandable.
before I do, I'm going to ask that anything that we discuss that may be sensitive, please do keep it close. While we may not deal with our loose ends when it comes to leaks, seeing that we are law enforcement, it's the rest of citizenry that pays, as I'm sure you've seen.
Yes.
You mentioned that your father, 10 years ago, he was a victim in a bombing over at the FIB.
Yes.
And you believe that it was bombed by Talon.
Yes.
What makes you so certain?
I I there was a lot of speculation about it. And it's the only thing that makes sense.
I'm going to grab a file real quick. I'm going to have you take a look at it. Um, now, before you open that folder, understand that it may be a little difficult to look at.
Okay.
You'll notice a date on there. It's a photo from one of my very old archives. So the date will not match. Whenever you're prepared, please take a look at the what's in the folder.
Jesus.
Do you recognize the male subject in that photo?
I I I don't.
Okay.
This is
It's gruesome.
gruesome.
This this photo was taken the day the FIB was bombed. I was a cadet at the time, and I took that photo. There was many victims that day. Only 4 that could be identified. Well,
Hmm.
I apologize for having you to take a look at that photograph, but I wanted to see whether or not the individual was your father, or whether he may have been one of the unfortunate victims in one of the side offices.
Were there any survivors of that?
Not to my knowledge. I will be rather forthcoming to you. I nearly lost my job over this situation. You have to understand that these sort of matters were sometimes written off as not something that was in the purview of local law enforcement. And while there may be some truth to it, the reality was that many years ago, we were the only possible first responders, especially in an instance like this. I kind of twisted the arm of one of my superiors to bring us there. And so we had very limited resources to get out the victims that we could. And so in that scatter and chaos, there is always the possibility that some may have escaped and, gone into hiding. I mean, if no one is coming to save the damn FIB building, why would you stick around to, trust in that agency to, keep you protected?
Why would you indeed? Are you not working with the FIB?
That's where it gets a little complicated. Generally speaking, the answer is no. We have no direct communication with the FIB. In fact, we were initially led to believe that the FIB was defunct as an organization.
So the man last night wasn't sent by you?
The man last night? Kingsman?
No. When I was in the office, there's a man who came up to the window. Said his name was Caleb. Caleb Rowe. He was an FIB data analyst. He said he was looking into the bombing.
Jesus.
Faceless.
So, Caleb, 1 second. I'm going to attempt to give you the second. No, that's not it. I wrote Caleb Bro there. did I write? I did Caleb, bro. Caleb, bro. Was brought up. I'm gonna try to give you the best explanation that I can, as there is no straightforward answer.
Of course, there isn't. There's never been any answers. I tried to find out what happened to my father for 10 years, and I got nothing.
Um, I am still trying to validate the legitimacy of the FIB. As we have received conflicting information, but I've yet to hear back. And it is possible that Caleb Rowe may be an ex-FIB agent. There's also the possibility that the agency still exists, but in a bit of a dormant state, in a limbo between falling under the helm of the San Andreas state and the U.S. government. Look, Amanda, things have gotten rather bad. The United States, President of the United States, 3 weeks ago, he came to San Andreas. He was an hour after landing, he passed away.
What?
The next day, the U.S. military showed up right outside the observatory. I fully expected that it was going to be our warning before the bomb started to fall. Only for them to tell me that the Faceless had stolen something from them. And that they had very little concerns over the day before.
What? What?
A week ago, there was another attack, allegedly, at the FIB building. And not a single person in law enforcement is aware.
What?
I've been told by our existing Department of Justice that there is no recognition between the United States and San Andreas, according to their sources. The reason I'm telling you all this is I think there's a much bigger game being played here than we truly know. The thing about people is they're very easily programmed. They react to things that they see on the news, on TV, and their surroundings. If a higher authority says something to be true, they take it and they run with it, not thinking twice to question what it is that they're being told. I'm sure you've experienced that as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there is a part of me, and I'm going to share this theory with you, and I know it's going to sound a little absurd, but I assure you,
I mean, everything is absurd. This all is absurd.
This island is a investment by many unknown actors, corporations. The Faceless for a very long time have been operating as their armed mafia, let's call it. As to whether or not it is each and every investor that plays a role in dictating what the Faceless does is unknown. About 2 weeks ago, with what occurred with the president and what one of my old colleagues in the Secret Service, who was also shot down during the whole situation, came to tell me was that one of my closest friends, President Davis, had allegedly sold the island of Sanguine to members of the Faceless. And I can tell you right now, that man never would have made that choice. Nor would in any reality would he have landed without letting me know here on the shores of San Andreas, been taken down, and for us to have woken up the next morning without bombs over our heads.
It doesn't make any sense.
The only explanation I can find is if you imagine San Andreas as just one of many instruments. If you think of it similar to, say, like Puerto Rico, we're close enough in relation to the United States, but open for sale for those with money and influence, investors. But the reality is that these investors, their grasp and their control goes beyond just the island of San Andreas, but rather their control has deep reaches into the U.S. government itself. God knows what other nation. I do genuinely believe that Sean Davis was his death was coordinated. Who, I don't know. Someone deep in his cabinet, more than likely. I mean, even with your husband, how did the Faceless come to learn what he did, or to find him?
I don't know.
Leaks. And I think that's kind of where your father comes into play. Now, understand this is purely speculation, right? It's my attempt to try to make sense of everything I see in front of me. And while I may only be partially on track, that draws the next question. The Faceless and Talon, whether or not there's a relationship there. Or just merely coincidence.
There's no coincidences. Something has to be connected. I couldn't just be the victim of two terrorist organizations in my life, just completely unrelated. That would be absurd.
And that's kind of why I was curious if there was anything you may not have mentioned. How well did your father know your husband prior to his passing?
It was his father-in-law passing. They weren't like super close.
Did they know each other in any fashion before you met?
I don't think so, no. There was a lot they didn't tell me, and I accepted that because I knew they were working for the greater good, and I wasn't going to pry. I had accepted that. And I think they wanted to keep me out of it too.
I'm sure you've heard of, have you ever heard of stories of the Freemasons?
Vaguely.
It's like one of many areas of mythos, uh, areas of conspiracy. Uh,
Secret societies.
hmm. I think we'd be foolish to believe that those sort of societies don't exist. I mean, even some of the small versions that go around in San Andreas. So to imagine one at a higher scale by those of higher levels of influences, I don't think out of the realm of reality. I think it's should be an expected belief. So there are parts of me that wonder whether the talent of the past and the faces of today um, either are one and the same or had some relationship from many years back. Perhaps one turned into the other, or perhaps once there were one only to later split, or perhaps just two societies that coexisted in some fashion. Perhaps goals that were similar, later disjointed. But like you said, there must be a connection. As to what that might be, we may never know. Um, did you know anything of Caleb Rowe?
No. He just kept asking about my father.
And he made his way into the building.
Yeah. He said something about my father having an old investigation into the faceless, and he wanted to meet me outside of the building.
Did you go?
No. I'm not an idiot. He eventually relented and he turned around and said, "Nothing is ever as it seems," and walked out.
Nothing is how it always seems. And then he
Nothing is
walked
ever as
out.
it seems.
Give me a second. So the name Caleb Rowe came on my radar very, very recently. I want to try to, must have been over the last week.
He also brought up my father wasn't just investigating the faceless, he was investigating Talon
Mm.
heavily. And I wonder if that's why.
Okay. Oh.
What?
I remember. Caleb Rowe was FIB.
That is what he said.
And I remember who told me. Unfortunately, it's a source I can't name. It's a source I can't name. Could you, now that I remember where I'd heard this name, let me ask you again, what could you walk through where you were in the building, how Caleb came to meet you face to face, and every little detail as to what he did and where you went and how he looked, to what precisely he said?
Okay. I was in the Marshall building. There was a wall on one side, or a glass pane. You're looking out into the lobby. He had walked in. I didn't notice him at first, and knocked on the window. He introduced himself as Caleb Rowe. Said he was a data analyst with FIB. He wore a suit jacket, a button-up collar, short brown hair, a few wrinkles. He said that he was looking through old files. The files about the bombing 10 years ago. He asked about my father by name. He said he was investigating. My father was investigating the faceless and also investigating Talon heavily.
Why do you think his did his question seem more directed towards questions around the faceless and your husband, or Talon and your father?
Talon and my father.
Oh. If you ever see him again, call me immediately. I strongly believe he's compromised.
I have a question, though.
Hmm.
Why would he be looking at old files if my dad is dead?
As I mentioned, we only recovered 4 people that day. While I would have to look very closely at my old files, if that was not your father in that photo, he either was unaccounted for or managed to escape.
He could be alive.
I don't want to give any false hope.
I need some false hope right now. I've lost everything. I need some hope right now. If there's a chance that he could be alive and out there. Uh,
There is, I if he is out there, we will find him. I understand that you were let down by this agency in the past and perhaps some of the other agencies your relatives worked for. But we do operate a little bit differently. I Amanda, what was the hair color of Mr. Rowe?
Brown.
Brown. Was he Caucasian?
Yes.
Brown, wrinkly. If you were to put an age on it, what roughly what age did he look?
40.
Okay. I don't have too many other questions, at least for now. More may come up in the future. Do you have any questions for me? Anything that might help?
I just want answers. This wasn't supposed to be my life. This wasn't supposed to be how everything turned out.
I think from everything that I've heard, unfortunately, I think you've become a victim of a, a victim of being a victim of proximity of what are believed to be very important folks for others. In fact, you need to do whatever you can to, if you ever, I'm going to work as quickly as I can to perhaps even get you somewhere more secure than this location. My fear, especially after this conversation, is that what if they didn't want you to die? And that you're not the one that's the loose end.
What do you mean?
Well, they took you the day your husband was taken.
The day he was released.
What do you mean by released?
They had him kidnapped for 2 months. And then they brought me to the quarry and
Where he was executed, right?
yeah. And said they were letting him go. And then they gave him the man in the blue mask gave him a black card.
I'm concerned that if your father is alive, they may use you to get to him. I
It never ends.
no. I'll be ending this recording at 4:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to go down to the city and get you